We're going to be talking about completing the picture. And for a circular packaging system to become a reality, many pieces have to come together. And in this keynote, the puzzle pieces of inks and coating will be revealed and how they make circular packaging not only colorful, but also complete. Now, the puzzle pieces covered include the enabling powers on reducing, on reusing, and also recycling packaging on a design and system change level. Concrete examples will make the enabling powers tangible. I'm excited to hear more about this. And for this, I'd like to hand it over to the head of Circular Economy Hub at Siegwerk. Here is Alina Marm. Alina, are you with us and can you hear me?
I'm hopefully with us. I can hear you. I can say that.
All right. So it's all up to you. Enjoy it, and I'll see you again for the Q&A afterwards.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. And let me just get rid of the biggest challenge of today, and that is probably sharing my screen. So I hope you can all see a screen and you can see the title page. If not, I'm not even sure how anybody would tell me. So welcome also from my side. Chris gave a great introduction, a great summary of what I'm going to talk about. And I'm looking forward to diving into the aspects of that. Before I do that, let's give you a little bit of perspective on sort of where I'm coming from and how I tackle the topic at hand. So I work for Siegwerk. Siegwerk is a global manufacturer for inks and coatings for packaging, and really has at its core the target to become a circular and digital packaging solutions company by 2025. So what I'm talking about today is really at the heart of what we're doing. And as a part of that heart, I have the honor of leading the Circular Economy Hub at Siegwerk. This is a department, it's really more of a hub, a contact point that drives circularity inside of Siegwerk, obviously, but also outside of Siegwerk. And that's me. I'm fully committed, and I have the honor of sort of doing what I love, circular economy and driving system change as a passion, as a job, but also I'm human and I'm not perfect. And there are definitely the moments where I also still need to think about my system change. That said, let's look at the picture. If you go out and want to draw a picture, you first think about sort of what is the frame that I want it for? Where is the picture supposed to hang? Is it supposed to be a case that should enlighten your mood or calm you down? Thinking about the frame and also what I want to do is the same if we think about packaging and circular packaging. We're setting the frame. And the frame we're setting here is thinking with systems in mind. Let me be a bit more concrete what that means. The frame that we've chosen is one not to think in silos of only raw material supply, only printing and converting, only filling, and so on, but really thinking about a picture that fits into a frame of systems where the different components come together and network and reinforce each other. So now that we're clear on sort of what the frame is, where the picture should hang and what we're keeping in mind, let's look a little bit on how to actually give circular packaging a life. And what is our toolbox? What are our tools to paint that picture? There are many of them, and it's impossible for me to go through all of them. So what I usually like to do is give you an overview of the circular system tools. And for each of these tools, you're going to have a whole lot of specificity. Like there is not just only one screwdriver in your home toolbox. But let's think about the category screwdriver if we think about a toolbox. So the first one, as part of our circular system toolbox, is the tool of reducing. Here it's really about thinking about where can I eliminate packaging components in its entirety. For food, that's often a challenge, but think about sort of a lot of the fancy products and cosmetics or also electronics where packaging has much more function than just protecting the good. And it makes sense to look at that with a fresh eye, with a new eye. The other part is also substituting with other materials. One great example here, and I'm pretty sure you've stumbled across many examples, is paper. So how can we substitute fossil-based materials with renewable materials? Once we've given a package into the system, let's think about reusing it. And here it's really thinking about how can I maximize the utility of that packaging? So not using it once, but using it multiple times. And then, of course, recycling. Here it's about designing a packaging so that we can actually achieve high quality recyclates, but also use these recyclates then for on par applications. What is important about all these levers, it's product innovation, so product tools, but also structure. So now that we have an overview of our toolbox, I hope you're curious on how inks and coatings play into that and what specificity they have with regards to those tools. But before we do that, it's almost sort of my mandate to quickly point out that while thinking about circular packaging is a lot of fun, there's also greater purpose behind it, because circular life options can be packaging life-saving. What you see here is a picture of Munchen, Indonesia, before the start of Project Stop, which is trying to eliminate leakage, and which Siegwerk is a strategic partner of. And this is a good reminder of what happens with packaging if we don't think of it in circular terms. By 2040, the macroplastic generation will have doubled. The leakage into the ocean will have tripled. And what is really mind-boggling is that the plastic stock, so the amount of plastic in the ocean, will have quadrupled. And there's also sort of a business claim to it, a business risk. That's why I say it's packaging life-saving. The cost for plastic waste management is roughly 100 billion by 2040. The revenue from that same industry is only 30 billion euros. Sorry, the profit, not the revenue, 30 billion euros. So if you think about that, these companies who put the product on the market would have to cover the cost, they would be bankrupt. So we're well advised to really work at lowering these 100 billion US dollars in costs for waste management by circular options. And the great thing is we have the tools, we have it in hand, and it's in our hand to really make this a change. So let's move to the sunny side again, to the colorful side. And here it's really that inks and coatings are an enabler for circular packaging. Chris mentioned it in his introductions. They're much more than color, even though that's what usually meets the eye. They really feed into the entire toolkit that we just saw. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So enabling circularity means rethinking packaging, not only from an inks and coatings perspective, not only from an innovation perspective, but really having a fresh eye on things. And I want to leave you here with two sort of tools on how to look at the same product, at the same system with a fresh eye. First one is thinking utility. So which purpose is the product actually serving? An example I like to give here is that of a chair. I go to a furniture store because I want to buy a chair. Ideally, the person in the furniture store, the salesperson, will ask me, what do you want the chair for? And he might discover that, you know what, actually, I'm looking for something to throw my clothes on after a long day so that I don't have to fold them and put them back in the closet. Well, the utility for that is maybe not best served by a chair, but by a rack. That's just one example on how exploring the utility, the purpose of a product can really broaden the scope of design choices. And the other one is probably no surprise by now, thinking in systems. And really thinking systems means how can I use the system partners, the system components to tackle challenges that I myself in my little box silo can solve by myself. So now that might sound totally out of the box or extreme or crazy to start that far and think about all these different components in the system, complicated, and maybe we're not really ready yet to dump our old habits and our comfort of the silo. So what I want to do now is I want to show you a few examples that looked at least at the system perspective and thought about utility a little bit. And you will see that having a fresh eye doesn't mean you have to revolutionize everything. It's really broadening the solution space. And also, of course, giving the purpose of inks and coatings a fresh eye, fresh look. So let's start with reuse. What you here see is a plastic liner-free paper cup. So a paper cup that doesn't have the PE liner anymore. The purpose that it serves, the utility, is often a lifestyle statement. If you think about on-the-go coffee, when we're still on the go, a certain brand, a certain hipster, I'm busy, I'm on the run, I don't have time. So there's a certain lifestyle statement, if we like it or not. But there's also this notion of use and forget. So single use without regret. And this is a utility Circular Life can actually address. So based on that, let's rethink the design requirements. So of course, we want hot and cold drinks so that we can use it for a wide range of application. And if you think about that lifestyle statement, it should be a high quality print because whatever lifestyle statement you want to make should be in high quality. For the Circular Life perspective, we have to give paper high functionality. And we also have to make sure that we recycle or compost it at the end of life. Otherwise, my single-use paper cup is not regret-free and I can't serve that utility. Inks and coatings are part of the answer here. We offer water-based dispersion barriers that are printed on the cup and really allow this functionality. Let's move on to reuse. Here you see a reusable beverage bottle. For people who live in Germany, they will know this as sort of their favorite beer. What is really the utility that this packaging serves? I think all of us can relate to this click moment and sort of the day is over, you relax, you meet friends. So there's, again, an emotional part to it. There's also sort of feeling something firm and cold. But especially with beverages, especially with beer, there's a lot of identification, brand identification. My beer is me and brand loyalty. Why is this important? Brand loyalty is really important when we think about reuse systems because they enable reuse to work because you have returning customers. And actually can use a returnable packaging to make your customers return. So this utility, this purpose is really important again in design. So let's rethink a little bit the designing requirements again. Obviously, you want differentiation, my beer, my brand, on a standardized container, standardized because it has to fit in the operating system of reuse. And it must be cost efficient. The printing has to be cost efficient, because there are some additional costs in running a reuse scheme versus a single-use item. And then for Circular Life, as a reuse, you really want to make sure that the labels come off during the cleaning process without bleeding into your wash water, because that obviously would not be a very sustainable solution. And then also you want something durable to maximize the reuse cycles, to really make it impactful and a good overall solution. Just one example, again, how inks and coatings can help here. There are inks that are ink retentive for the labels so that the ink doesn't bleed into the washing process. One example that has nothing to do with Siegwerk, full disclosure, but that I stumbled upon and I really liked it because it is a good example of rethinking reuse. What you see here is a bottle from a coffee maker, and they actually sell coffee beans in this bottle. Some of you might recognize it as a bottle where you can buy milk in reusable containers. And I love this because they thought outside the box, outside their coffee box, but they stayed within the box. They rely on existing solutions. So they have something new coffee brand in something old, the milk container, and something borrowed because you return it. The great thing here is also that there is a high likelihood that people who would go for a brand like this coffee represents already are in a reuse scheme for their milk bottles because they are sustainable consumers or sustainable or conscious consumers. Now let's go back to Siegwerk and let's look at the last part in our toolbox, recycle. What you see here is a monoplastic pouch for cat food. So you think, well, what's the big secret about utility of cat food? Let's think about it a little bit. Some people might have pets and you know what happens when you crunch the packaging, the cat comes. So it's a purposeful cat finder. Also, if you look at the product a little bit more, there's a huge identification component in that. So that my cat is as hipster as me. I don't know if you can see it if it's big enough, but these are spirulina treats. While my cat eats those, I drink spirulina smoothies. And because I'm conscious consumer, I also want to make sure that with all this, this great comfort, it's supposed to be sustainable, hence recyclable in this case. So if you think about how this package live, how many times you take it into your hand and what is in there, the little chunky cat food bites, puncture resistant is important. At the end of the day, this remains a cost pressured packaging, so high printing speeds are essential. And also remember that you want to do something good for your pet. So optical and haptic effects are crucial here, and they also contribute to overall resistance for the packaging. From a circular perspective, here we really have to look at technical recyclability. So how can we make the packaging design technically recyclable? One example here is moving from multi-plastic, for example, a PET laminate, to a monoplastic. The other part is how can we increase the incentive to recycle? So how can we make sure that once the package is recycled, the recyclate quality is really high quality recyclate, incentive to actually recycle the pack. Inks and coatings in recycling have so much role to play. It's almost impossible putting it all into one talk. So there is, of course, sort of the topic of barrier. So a printed barrier coating can go a long way in reinstalling some of the barriers that were taken out for the plastic layers and are often a more recyclable alternative than the barriers that are out there at the moment. Also, if we think about reinstalling capabilities, think about sealing. If you take out certain plastic types, the sealability of your packaging is more challenging. Lacquers play a great role here. And then also, you want to make sure that when this packaging ends up in the recycling, and hence today your extrusion process, that these ink systems are compatible with the extrusion process. There's one caveat in this, being the ink still on the package. No matter how good you design the package, as long as you have inks and adhesives and other stuff on the packaging, the recyclate quality will always be of a lower grade, no matter how innovative you are. As Siegwerk, we look at it as sort of the next level. How can we get rid of the inks and adhesives and coatings that are a challenge for recycling today? And we promote de-inking as part of a future recycling process. And also here, inks and coatings are crucial as primers really enable the delamination if it's a laminate, but also the de-inking of the inks. So as you've probably noticed, I could go on forever and time is running, and I'm aware of that. But I think it was a nice showcasing that inks and coatings really complete the picture, and that the picture is important, that we come together and draw this picture as a system, because being alone on a picture doesn't really make this that much fun. If you want to learn more, there's a lot. So all the social media channels, but also Siegwerk has a white paper on circular economy. There are webinars that go into more detail on certain aspects of what you heard today. And also we have a podcast called in conversation that covers different aspects that I touched upon. With that, I want to thank you, and I'm, to be honest, Chris, not sure if we still have time for Q&A.
Hey, Alina. So thank you very much, first of all, for your presentation. Well done. No, we don't actually have time, but we have a question, and we definitely want to have this answered. So try to make an espresso out of this, okay? Not a lungo. Okay. What are the ingredients in ink which can be more, and now I have this weird, which can be more sustainable? There we go.
Okay, because I have to make an espresso, don't look at the ingredients of the ink, look at what ink can do for your packaging. The lever, the positive impact we have by applying inks and coatings is so much more powerful than looking at the ingredients for ingredients purposes. Look at ingredients for enabling purposes.
All right. That was an espresso for sure. Thank you very much, Alina. And you enjoy the rest of virtual drupa. Great to have you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And thank you all for joining.